The term silly season gets thrown out a lot in NASCAR, but what is it really? And what was the silliest of silly seasons? Well, to start with, silly season is NASCAR's free agency period, where wacky moves happen and different things that you wouldn't even imagine having come together will come together. But when it comes to the silliest of silly seasons, I have to say the 2007 wins the prize. And let's look into just why that is. Starting out with some of the small moves, most of them being from old-time drivers that were way past their prime. Ricky Rudd would retire after an abysmal 2007 season. He would have an injury that would take him out, which was way out of the ordinary for Rudd, and he would basically just fade off into obscurity through the season. His 88 would be rebranded to the 28 for Travis Kloppel, while, we'll talk about it later, the 88 would move over to Hendrick Motorsports. The former driver of the 88 before him, Dale Jarrett, would announce that he would retire in 2008 and go over to ESPN. DJ would run the first 5 races in the 44 in 2008 in order to ensure that that car could stay in the owner's title, and he would be able to use his championship provisional in doing so. Then his teammate David Rudiman would move from the 00 to the 44 for the last 31 races. And in this time, Michael McDowell would run in the 00 while Rudiman was in the 44. Then there's the continuation of the open wheel invasion. Started most notably by Juan Pablo Montoya in the 42 and AJ Allmendinger in the 84 in 2007, it would continue into 2008 and become much more prevalent. Scott Riggs had been in the 10 car for Evernham, but after honestly a pretty good 2006, his 2007 was awful. He was missing races, finishing below 30th on a regular basis, and they decided to move on to Patrick Carpentier. Actually, they moved on to him before the end of the season because of how far off the cliff Riggs had fallen. 2006 rookie David Strang would be booted from the 40 car after 2007, instead for Dario Franchitti. Strang really never panned out and was probably the weakest link in his time at Ganassi, and with it, Franchitti would be coming over maybe to give a spark of life or at least some hype into it from the, again, open wheel invasion. But he never panned out or adjusted either, and after an injury, he would only run about 14 or so races in 2008. Sam Hornish Jr. would go over to the third team for Penske in the 77. While not successful in many ways in Cup, Hornish was better in the Xfinity Series and became a mainstay there. Overall, the open wheel invasion really just clogged up the development programs of many teams and caused really bad rookie classes in the Cup Series from 2008 till about 2012 or 13. Then there was the JGR shuffle. The first being JJ Yaley being out of the 18 car. He was a rookie in 06 and tried to maybe improve in 07, and he did early on in the season, but he never really ran the way that his teammates Denny Hamlin and Tony Stewart ran. Instead, he was basically taking up space and was more often than not a lap car. He would go over to Hall of Fame Racing number 96 in 2008, a Toyota affiliate, but he never would return to a top-tier ride. Instead, he was replaced by none other than Kyle Busch, who left Hendrick Motorsports number 5 car after he was unceremoniously booted from the team, and would then go on a huge revenge tour in 2008, becoming Toyota and JGR's franchise guy, winning 8 races right out the bat. While it took time for him to win championships, he won tons of races just about every single season and was clearly an elite driver. And probably this move out of any of them made would have the biggest on-track change in performance. But in the moment, and honestly in all of our memories, the biggest change from this silly season was at DEI and their saga. But to start out with that, we need to look at Ginn Racing. There was this rich billionaire, Bobby Ginn, who bought up MB2 Motorsports and would try to run his own 3-car team. He had the 01 car, with a part-time Mark Martin leading the team, as well as a young driver developing in Regan Smith. He had Joe Nemechek in the 13 and Sterling Marlin in the 14. But as it turned out, he was pretty much a fraud, and in this, he would run out of money by the middle of the season. While he would basically have the team merge with DEI. It was more that most of the team closed, and the 01 team of Martin and Smith would be staying the same, just under the DEI banner. The team merging would mean that Joe Nemechek's number 13 car and Sterling Marlin's number 14 car would close their doors permanently, and most of the Ginn employees would be let go in the merger. But the biggest change with DEI in this time, and probably what prompted Teresa Earnhardt and those running the team to merge with Ginn and other teams in the future, was Dale Earnhardt Jr. leaving the team that his father built. It was the biggest free agency period in all of NASCAR history. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was the most popular driver in the most popular time in NASCAR history. Say what you want about the Elliots, the way that the Earnhardt Nation was at the track and across the country was something that would never be matched again in NASCAR. And with it, you also had the family drama, Teresa Earnhardt versus Dale Jr. and Dale Sr.'s kids. And with it, Dale Jr. would end up trying to sign with a team that would win him, in his mind, championships, or at least give him the best possible chance. Hendrick Motorsports. So Jr. would go over from the 8 to the 88, taking over what was the 25 team at the time, while the 5 would go to Casey Mears, and Kyle Busch, like we said earlier, would get the boot. DEI would move Martin to the 8 in 2008 along with Eric Almirola, but the team was never the same and ended up merging with Ganassi in 2008's offseason leading into 09. And from that point, it basically withered away. Ginn would be gone from NASCAR in all forms of the such by the end of 2007. Now, the shockwaves of this were immense, from these drivers changing performance, teams, everything of the like, and you saw it with Dale Jr. having honestly the worst period of his career, Kyle Busch having the best, and it ended up in a roundabout way opening the door for Mark Martin to have one last chance at a title with Hendrick Motorsports in 2009, which, in the ripple effect, would bring Brad Keselowski over to Penske, where he would win the captain and Dodge their first NASCAR championships. Sponsors like Budweiser would move, Budweiser being the biggest, moving to Casey Kane's 9 car out of DEI, where the 8 would take the U.S. Army. Other sponsors would just fall away over time, and M&M's would move over to Joe Gibbs Racing. The way NASCAR looked from the cars, drivers, sponsors, and all was different from 07 to 08. This was the death knell for DEI, and it was the beginning of one of the most dominant driver-team pairings in NASCAR history with Kyle Busch at JGR. It was really the closest NASCAR ever came in the way of hype to an NFL or NBA free agency period. It was right up there with LeBron leaving the Cavaliers to go to the Heat. It was that big of a deal at the time, even in the sports media market, which normally doesn't cover NASCAR. But with that, I want to pass it on to you and ask, what is the biggest silly season moment that you remember? Let me know down in the comments below, and while you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support, and until next time, have a good one.